Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas. And Dynamite just ended. This was Dynamite's Holiday Bash, as what they called the show. And I gotta say, the show was very good in my opinion. Really enjoyed Dynamite tonight. I mean, there was some stuff that I'm like, meh, did not care for. But overall, it was still a enjoyable, good Dynamite tonight. So tonight on Dynamite, we saw match number 5 in the Best of 7 series between the Elite and the Death Triangle. This was a no disqualification match. We saw Hook in action, and he had taken on Exodus Prime. Jon Moxley was in action, where he ended up taking on Darius Martin, one half of Top Flight. We had the Guns, Austin and Colton. They ended up taking on FTR, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, in a tag team match. And the main event, the AEW Women's World Championship was on the line. Jamie Hayter defended the title against HIKARU Shida. Overall, Dynamite tonight, enjoyable show. Very good show it was. But before I get into the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded yesterday, I did a movie hunting video, going to Salvation Army, see if they had anything new for DVD, Blu-ray, VHS-wise. Picked up 2 things there. So check out my video of that if you guys haven't seen it. And also got some news, some AEW news. So I'm reading this off of WrestlingView.com. And it says right here, Tony Khan confirms changes are coming to the look and feel of both AEW Dynamite and Rampage. It says right here in a recent interview with TV Insider, Tony Khan has confirmed that AEW Dynamite and Rampage will have a new look starting in January. The first Dynamite of 2023 will take place live from Seattle, Washington on January 4th. And this is what Tony Khan had to say. He kept saying, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag necessarily, especially so close to the big day. But at the start of 2023, we're going to open the year on Wednesday, January 4th, with the first Dynamite in Seattle, marking a full year of Dynamite on TBS. We'll definitely have a new look, to say the least. I'm excited about it. I think it's a nice thing to present to the fans, but frankly, I found more so than ever the more you talk about these things. Tony Khan then wants to say here, when you build them up, you don't want to create expectations that are impossible. I will say the set will be beautiful, though. Tony Khan further said that the presentation of Rampage will also change with the first Rampage of the new year. The first Rampage of 2023 will take place live from Portland, Oregon on January 6th. So hopefully every single Friday from this first Rampage, it will be live every single week. Hopefully that's the case. I want Rampage to be live. When Rampage is live, the crowd is a whole lot more energetic than how it is when it's taped, because when they tape Rampage, the crowd is there for like what? They sit through an hour of AEW Dark, and then they sit through 2 hours of Dynamite, and then after 2 hours of Dynamite, they do Rampage. So they're pretty much tired from seeing, all those hours of wrestling. So, but hopefully this is the start of Rampage being live every single Friday, which that would be great. The crowd would be a lot more energetic. So I hope Tony Khan keeps it that way. He said, the first Rampage of the new year will be live. So let's hope Tony Khan sticks with that and makes Rampage live every single week. Because, let's be honest, Rampage needs to be live every week. But he kept saying here that the look of Rampage will also be different. This will affect the way people view AEW on Wednesday and Fridays in terms of presentation, with the set and the show with the same great action. Tony Khan also went on to discuss the hiring of Mike Mansouri as the new senior vice president and co-executive producer, and he will change up the presentation of AEW television. Tony Khan said here, Mike just started with us as a huge acquisition for AEW. He has so much knowledge in TV production. To have him join us as a co-executive producer and senior production executive is really great for us. It's so important to have someone with his experience. Right now, he is evaluating things in terms of presentation. I'm excited about what he will add to AEW. So that is the article for this, but change is coming to both Dynamite and Rampage. Hopefully Dynamite gets a new opening theme song. Same with Rampage. With Rampage, it's like, oh, this is Rampage. This is Rampage. It needs a change. Same for Dynamite. The Dynamite theme is like, break the rule, break the law of Dynamite. So, hopefully, new theme music comes for both shows. Can't wait to see what the new sets are going to look like. So, but we'll have to, wait and see come January 4th on the first Dynamite of 2023. And then we'll be seeing what the new set looks like for Rampage on January 6th. So, but can't wait. So I just had to share that little piece of news. But let's get right into the review. Dynamite opened up tonight with Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks ended up coming out, got a big ovation from the fans there in San Antonio. He came out, he was wearing sunglasses. He got into the ring, big chant for his name from the crowd. So Starks got on the mic. He kept saying that it would have been nice if he stood in the ring as the AEW World Champion. But he lost. Yeah, he lost to MJF, which I wasn't surprised by. So I knew MJF was going to retain the title and retain the Dynamite Diamond ring. So Starks ended up saying that at least he lost as a man and not as Maxwell Jacob Coward. He kept saying that there will be a next time between him and MJF. Starks ended up saying that it's not the end of the road for him, but just a start, and if he has to work his way back up to the top, line them up so he can strike them down. Starks ended up saying that one day he will be the man around AEW. So then Chris Jericho ended up coming out. Chris Jericho came out along with Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. So Jericho came out to a big ovation. Of course, the crowd was singing along to Judas. Jericho got on the mic. He kept saying that he's been watching Starks for a long time. He kept saying that Starks said he is not a dollar store wrestler, but a $1 million talent. So Jericho ended up saying that Starks is not ready yet. Jericho ended up saying to Starks that he talked everything over with Big Daddy Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara. Jericho ended up telling Starks that he needs a little influence and a little advice and a little Chris Jericho. I'm surprised Jericho didn't say to Starks, oh, how about you have a little bit of the bubbly? You need some little bit of the bubbly. So the fans started to chant, Sammy sucks. They were shitting all over Sammy Guevara, the crowd there. To which Jericho ended up telling the fans that if you say Sammy sucks, then he sucks, then Jericho sucks. So Jericho ended up offering Ricky Starks a spot in the Jericho Appreciation Society. So Starks ended up telling Jericho that he looks like an air fryer and also father on his 5th divorce, which that made me chuckle. So the fans end up liking that, and they started chanting for Starks. Starks ended up telling Jericho, while he's tempted to join his little boy band, he kept saying that he will not join the JAS. And that Jericho lost last week, which Jericho did lose last week to Action Andretti, which a lot of people were saying, oh, that was like the 1-2-3 Kid moment, where 1-2-3 Kid, when 1-2-3 Kid was X-Pac, when he defeated Razor Ramon. A lot of people are comparing Action Andretti beating Chris Jericho to that moment between 1-2-3 Kid and Razor Ramon. So he kept saying that the Jericho Appreciation Society should stand for jobbers. Yeah, there you go. The Jobber Appreciation Society. So Starks then called Sammy Guevara and Danny Garcia jassholes. So the crowd was chanting jobbers to them. This was great. This was funny stuff here. So then Starks ended up asking Danny Garcia what Chris Jericho has done for him since he lost his title. And then he told Sammy Guevara that he doesn't like him anyway. Starks then proposed for the new look and feel of Dynamite in Seattle, for the first Dynamite of the new year. So Starks ended up challenging Jericho to a match in Seattle on the first Dynamite of the new year. So then the Jericho Appreciation Society ended up running into the ring. You had Jake Hager with his stupid purple hat. Barney came out there and beat down on Starks. And then we had Jericho and Guevara and Danny Garcia come in and beat down on Starks. And then Action Andretti ended up coming out. He came to the ring, got a big ovation from the crowd. So Action Andretti ended up taking out the Jericho Appreciation Society, and pretty much that was basically that. The guy who beat Jericho last week on Dynamite. But that was basically how the segment ended. But really enjoyed this opening segment to Dynamite. Ricky Starks coming out there. He is over with the crowd. AEW has something with Ricky Starks here. And hopefully they build on that. And they make Starks a bigger star. But like I said, they have something in Ricky Starks. And, funny stuff here, with Starks ended up calling Guevara and Danny Garcia jassholes, him calling the Jericho Appreciation Society jobbers. So just very funny stuff. Very good segment. And then we had the first match of the night, which was match number 5 in the Best of 7 series. The Elite versus the Death Triangle. This was a no disqualification match. Very good match this was. I gotta say, this was better than their previous 4 matches. So the Elite ended up coming out, got a huge ovation from the crowd there in San Antonio. Yeah, Brandon Cutler dressed up as an elf. And then out came the Death Triangle. You had Pac and Rey Fenix, Penta Oscuro, and they were accompanied by, of course, Alex Abrahantes. The crowd there in San Antonio, they gave the Death Triangle a mixed ovation. They were all for the Elite here. So the match ended up starting. We got a brawl between the Death Triangle and the Elite. We had the Death Triangle end up sending the Elite to the outside. They end up leaping to the outside onto the Elite, taking out all them. So we had Kenny Omega was nailed in the head by a trash can delivered from Penta Oscuro. The Death Triangle ended up triple teaming Omega, and he ended up crawling to the corner. Phoenix ended up hitting some elbow strikes on Matt Jackson. The fans at this point were chanting, "We want tables." Nick Jackson ended up nailing Pac with a leg drop. He ended up dropping to the outside, and he got a huge clothesline by Rey Fenix. So then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had a tree in the ring. The Death Triangle ended up sending Matt Jackson into the tree. So Nick Jackson ended up hitting the Death Triangle with a high crossbody. Nick Jackson took out Penta and Phoenix with some super kicks. Pac then ended up grabbing Nick, ended up wrapping his ankle with a chair. So Pac ended up going up to the top, and he attempted to come down and hit Nick's ankle with the chair wrapped around it. So then Kenny Omega came back into the ring. Kenny Omega ended up picking up Pac, ended up slamming him down. He then ended up hitting Pac with the trash can. Omega ended up going for the cover on Pac, but Pac ended up kicking out, which got boos from the crowd. Omega then ended up going to the outside, and he ended up grabbing a broom wrapped in barbed wire. So he grabbed that. He ended up taking out Phoenix and Penta with the barbed wire broom. He ended up hitting the barbed wire broom to Phoenix's back. So Phoenix ended up getting up, and Kenny Omega ended up slamming Phoenix's face, and Phoenix's face went into the barbed wire broom. So the Young Bucks ended up climbing up to the top rope. Matt and Nick took out Penta on the table on the outside with an elbow and a swanton. Omega ended up covering Phoenix, but Phoenix ended up kicking out at 2. You also had this stupid, goofy shit happen in the match where Brandon Cutler, dressed as an elf, came in, and Alex Abrahantes was in there. And then Cutler ended up spraying the cold spray at Alex Abrahantes. And then Cutler being taken out. Some awful, goofy shit at that point in the match. So we had Pac end up getting up on the apron. He got pushed off by Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega attempted to hit the one-winged angel on Phoenix, but Phoenix countered. Phoenix ended up nailing Kenny Omega to the head with a hammer, which was tossed in by Alex Abrahantes. Alex Abrahantes ended up throwing the hammer to Phoenix for Phoenix to nail Kenny Omega with it. So Phoenix ended up going for the cover on Kenny Omega. Omega ended up kicking out at 2. So Phoenix had Nick Jackson in a submission. Pac ended up having Kenny Omega in a submission with barbed wire wrapped around his face. So pretty cool spots here or there. So Matt Jackson came in, ended up breaking up both holds. So at the end of the match, the Bucks ended up picking up Phoenix, and they delivered the Meltzer driver on Phoenix. They ended up going for the cover, and there you go. The Elite ended up winning match number 5 in the Best of 7 series. Match number 6 will take place next week on Dynamite, and it will be a Falls Count Anywhere match. And if the series goes to match 7, a ladder match will determine who will be the AEW Trios champions. So, because of the win here tonight, the Elite are up 2-3. The Death Triangle has 3 wins. So, if the Elite win it next week, it will be tied up, and it will go to match number 7, which will be a ladder match. So post-match, the Death Triangle ended up coming back into the ring. They ended up taking out the Elite with hammers. The referee ended up coming in to break it up, and the Bucks were bleeding. And then as the ref ended up moving away, the Death Triangle ended up attacking the Elite again. And pretty much that was basically that. But overall, this was a very good match, very good no disqualification match. This was better than their previous 4 matches that they had, in my opinion. Good match. And then we saw video of MJF last week after Dynamite went off the air because Daniel Bryan came out and he ran MJF off. So MJF was telling Daniel Bryan that he is gutless and had to stick his nose in it. So MJF ended up calling Bryan Danielson a scumbag and that everyone wants to eat from his plate. So pretty much that was basically what MJF had to say. And then, as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Tony Schiavone was interviewing Action Andretti, and Action Andretti ended up telling Tony Schiavone that he did the biggest upset of the decade. He kept saying that he appreciates the fans and the love and support that he is getting from those fans. And then we saw Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. They ended up saying that Action Andretti is on fire, and Jericho ended up delivering a fireball to Action Andretti. So, Wizard Jericho is back. We all didn't forget that he was a wizard. So, but there you go. That was that. I bet we're going to get another match between Jericho and Action Andretti. So, we should be getting that. And then we saw Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette was in the ring and she ended up introducing Bryan Danielson. Bryan ended up coming out, got a huge ovation. He got into the ring. Renee then ended up asking Bryan, what is the status on the Blackpool Combat Club? Bryan ended up telling Renee that he doesn't expect the Blackpool Combat Club to forgive William Regal for the bad things that he did. Bryan ended up saying that he trained in San Antonio by Shawn Michaels, which that got a pop from the fans. Bryan ended up saying that the man that turned him into the wrestler and person he is today is William Regal. Bryan ended up saying that he understands that the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club do not have the same relationship as he does. He ended up saying that he cried when he saw William Regal in the hospital and knew he would never see him again. Bryan ended up saying that he loved having Regal in AEW. What does that tell you? William Regal will be back in WWE. So Bryan ended up saying that one thing William Regal taught him is there are consequences to actions. Bryan then ended up telling MJF in the camera that there are consequences to his actions. So Bryan then called out MJF. But MJF didn't come out, so Bryan got all ego Ethan Page. To which Ethan Page came out with Stokely Hathaway, and Ethan Page got shit on by the San Antonio crowd. As Ethan Page was talking, they were chanting, "Shut the fuck up," to Ethan Page. So Page ended up telling Stokely Hathaway that he made it to the Eliminator Tournament Finals, and Bryan didn't. So Stokely Hathaway ended up telling Bryan, why don't you go shop at Trader Joe's for your gluten-free food? So Bryan was like, what was that? I couldn't hear you. So Stokely Hathaway and Ethan Page end up calling Bryan a vegetable man. Not because of his way of life, but he will turn him into a vegetable. Bryan then ended up telling Ethan Page that if you want to turn him into a vegetable, let's do it tonight. And there was a point where Bryan here was like to Stokely Hathaway, the glare on your forehead is very distracting, which was funny, was hilarious. So then the fans ended up going crazy because they because they want to see Bryan take on Ethan Page tonight. But Page ended up saying, San Antonio sucks. So Page ended up challenging Bryan to a match for Dynamite next week in Denver. So MJF was then shown watching the exchange on the monitor. And pretty much that was basically that. But overall, I thought this was a pretty decent segment here with Bryan and Ethan Page. So far the show was a bit more, heavy on promos and talking, but it's telling good stories, leading up to what could be, very good matches. So, and that was pretty much basically that. And then we had a Jon Moxley promo where Moxley was telling Hangman and Page about how good he is. Moxley then ended up talking about how he will have to teach Darius Martin a lesson. So pretty much that was that from Moxley. And then we had Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe ended up wishing everyone a happy holiday season, including Wardlow. So he ended up saying that Wardlow won't be having a happy new year. And that he's still going to be the TNT champion. So pretty much that was basically what Samoa Joe had to say. But Samoa Joe, he's still going to be the TNT champion. And I don't think Wardlow is going to be winning back the TNT championship. So it's just going to stay on Samoa Joe. That's how the way I see it. But good pre-taped segment from Samoa Joe. And then we had Hook versus Exodus Prime squash match. Hook ended up winning the match. So, post-match, Stokely Hathaway and Lee Moriarty were backstage. And we had Big Bill, W. Morrissey, which they're now calling him Big Bill. So he ended up taking out Jungle Boy. So Big Bill picked up Jungle Boy and slammed him into the dumpster. So then Hook ended up leaving the ring quickly, and pretty much basically that. So, but what a stupid name for W. Morrissey. They're calling him now Big Bill. Yeah, we know that he is big. But they should just still call him W. Morrissey. Like I said, what a stupid name. Big Bill. Oh, he's big. Yeah, we all know he's big. So then we had Jon Moxley versus Darius Martin. Darius Martin, one half of Top Flight. Darius Martin ended up coming out accompanied by his brother Dante, which they're very good Top Flight. So Claudio Castagnoli was on the outside with Moxley. And this was a pretty good match here. This was an entertaining match. The match ended up starting. Moxley and Darius ended up locking up. Moxley ended up kicking Darius in the back. Moxley ended up having Darius locked up in a side headlock. Darius came back, ended up tripping Moxley, followed up with a huge drop kick to Moxley. Moxley ended up going to the outside, and he ended up coming back into the ring. He ended up kicking Darius in his midsection, and then he ended up tossing him to the outside. Moxley had Darius over the barricade, ended up hitting Darius with a suplex on the concrete floor. So Dante ended up coming over to check on his brother, but Moxley shoved Dante. So Darius ended up fighting back. Moxley ended up going back over the barricade. Darius ended up getting in the ring, ended up taking Moxley out on the outside with a huge dive. And then Darius just started laying punches to Moxley. So Moxley then ended up coming back and nailed Darius. And this was all on the outside. The ref ended up begin the 10 count, and Darius ended up making it back into the ring before the other 10 count. So Moxley had Darius in the corner, ended up hitting him with some chops. And of course, Moxley was a little bit bleeding here. I mean, does every single match have to have Moxley bleed? You know, does Moxley have to bleed every single match? So Moxley ended up putting Darius on the top rope, ended up running his fingernails across his back, and then he superplexed him. So Moxley ended up hitting Darius with some elbows to his head. So at the end of the match, we had Darius end up getting out of a submission by Moxley, and Moxley ended up nailing the Death Rider on Darius, and Moxley ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Moxley ended up winning the match. But overall, this was a pretty good match, very entertaining match from Moxley and Darius. Both guys gave it all they got here. Very entertaining. And I guess this match was to elevate Darius. So that's good on that. So Moxley ended up making Darius look good tonight. And then we had the Guns, Austin and Colton, versus the top guys, FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler. And this was a pretty good match here. Austin and Colton ended up coming out first. They came out to boos from the crowd. And then FTR, Harwood, and Wheeler came out. They got a big ovation from the crowd there in San Antonio. And then the match got underway. All four men were in the ring. And Cash Wheeler and Colton Gunn started off the match. Wheeler ended up hitting Colton with some elbows to his back. Austin Gunn tagged in, and he was met by a kick from Cash Wheeler. Dax Harwood ended up coming in. Him and Wheeler ended up sending the Guns out to the floor. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Dax Harwood was in control of the match. He had Colton Gunn in the corner. Austin Gunn ended up coming in, and they ended up double teaming on Dax Harwood. Wheeler then took out Colton Gunn. And so the Guns came back and they double teamed on Dax Harwood. They pulled him out of the ring. Wheeler ended up diving to the outside to take out both of the Guns, but he was shoved into the barricade. So Harwood was put in the sharpshooter by Austin Gunn. Wheeler ended up coming in and he ended up bringing up the sharpshooter. Wheeler was on the apron and he was tossed down and he ended up hitting the barricade face first. So then at the end of the match, Colton ended up rolling up Dax Harwood. Austin Gunn ended up providing the assist. And Aubrey Edwards, who was the referee, she didn't see Austin Gunn providing the assist on Colton. And so Harwood ended up getting pinned. And so there you go. The Guns end up winning the match. FTR looked shocked at what happened. And Dax Harwood looked really, really shocked. So pretty much that was basically that. So this was a surprise win by the Guns. And Austin ended up helping his brother Colton get the win for them. So but overall, pretty good match. And then we had Sanjay Dutt. Sanjay Dutt was shown in a video package with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh. And pretty much, basically, he was rapping like the Acclaim. There was an Acclaim style rap as Sanjay Dutt was just rapping about, Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh. This was awful. This was absolutely fucking awful. Sanjay Dutt needs to stop rapping. This was absolutely fucking cringe. And then we had the Swerve Strickland Keith Lee face-to-face where you had Rick Ross mediate this. So we had Tony Schiavone. He was in the ring with Rick Ross, rap artist Rick Ross. So Keith Lee was introduced first. Rick Ross ended up getting on the mic. He kept saying, "Today, we will make history, and there is big business that needs to be discussed." Rick Ross ended up calling Keith Lee a big motherfucker. So Rick Ross then called out Swerve Strickland. Strickland then ended up coming out, got boos from the crowd. He kept saying, yes, he wasn't aware this was being done on Keith Lee's time. Swerve ended up saying to Keith Lee that they should own everything. Swerve ended up saying that he can't deal with it, and Keith Lee needs to keep eyes in the back of his head from now on. So Keith Lee was nailed from behind by Parker Boudreaux, young Brock Lesnar. So Parker Boudreaux nailed Keith Lee from behind. Keith Lee ended up fighting Parker Boudreaux off. So as Keith Lee was walking to the back, he was taken out by some mystery guy. And this mystery guy had tattoos all over him, tattoos all over his face, all over his body. So Parker Boudreaux then ended up coming from behind and nailed Keith Lee in the back with a chair. So the ring steps were set up. Rick Ross was just by the ring, just looking at what was going down with Parker Boudreaux and this mystery guy being down on Keith Lee, to which I forgot to mention, Swerve ended up mentioning Keith Lee's, weight there, because, there was talks about, how Keith Lee, just, doesn't want to lose weight. Oh, he's not taking care of himself. So Swerve ended up bringing that up. So it got personal there. So the ring steps were set up. Keith Lee was put on the steps by Parker Boudreaux. Parker Boudreaux then ended up putting a cinder block on Keith Lee's stomach. Swerve then ended up going up to the top rope. He came off the top. He ended up stomping on Keith Lee's stomach, and the cinder block broke on Keith Lee. And the crowd ended up yelling, "Holy shit." And pretty much that was basically how this segment ended. Overall, this segment was fucking awful. This is boring. I don't give a shit about this feud. And the crowd just doesn't seem to care about Parker Boudreaux. All the fans see in Parker Boudreaux is a young Brock Lesnar. Because that's who Parker Boudreaux looks like. He looks like Brock Lesnar when he just came into the WWE in 2002. So they don't see anything in Parker Boudreaux, and they sure as hell don't seem to care about this mystery guy, which we all know who this mystery guy is. No explanation of his name. So this feud is shaped up to be absolutely fucking boring. I don't give a shit about anything about this feud. More like yawn. What a waste of a segment. Waste of time. Main event. The AEW Women's World Championship on the line. Jamie Hayter defended the title against HIKARU SHIDA. Jamie Hayter was, of course, accompanied by Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Rebel. And this was a very good women's match here. Good main event. HIKARU SHIDA came out to a mixed reaction from the crowd. The fans were behind Jamie Hayter here. So the match ended up starting. We had both women exchanging blows at each other. HIKARU SHIDA ended up hitting Jamie Hayter with a knee strike, to which Jamie Hayter ended up going down. Hayter fought back with some shots to the back of HIKARU SHIDA. Jamie Hayter was taken down. HIKARU SHIDA ended up hitting Hayter with some strikes to her face. Shida ended up having Hayter on the ring apron and nailed her with a huge knee strike. So then, as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Jamie Hayter was in control of the match. She ended up nailing HIKARU SHIDA with some strikes to her face. HIKARU SHIDA came back and delivered Jamie Hayter with some strikes to Jamie Hayter's face. So Hayter ended up picking up HIKARU SHIDA, slammed her down. Jamie Hayter ended up going for the cover on HIKARU SHIDA, but HIKARU SHIDA ended up kicking out. So both women ended up taking each other down. So both women ended up getting back up just before the ref ended up counting to 10. HIKARU SHIDA ended up blocking a right hand from Jamie Hayter. Shida ended up hitting Hayter with a drop kick. Then HIKARU SHIDA ended up taking Jamie Hayter in the corner, started punching away at her. So Jamie Hayter ended up dropping HIKARU SHIDA on the ring apron. HIKARU SHIDA got back up, ended up hitting Jamie Hayter with the knee strike. So both women ended up going to the floor. And as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Jamie Hayter was on the top rope. She ended up missing a moonsault from the top rope. And HIKARU SHIDA ended up going for the cover on Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter ended up kicking out. So HIKARU SHIDA picked up Jamie Hayter. Shida ended up hitting a sliding lariat to Hayter. So we had HIKARU SHIDA kicking out as Jamie Hayter ended up going for the cover. Hayter then ended up rolling up HIKARU SHIDA, and HIKARU SHIDA kicked out. So at the end of the match, you had Jamie Hayter end up nailing HIKARU SHIDA again with a powerbomb. So she ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Jamie Hayter ended up winning the match, retaining the AEW Women's World Championship. It took Jamie Hayter 3 times to put down HIKARU SHIDA. So, post-match, we had HIKARU SHIDA got triple teamed by Jamie Hayter and Rebel and Britt Baker, to which there was a spot in the match where Britt Baker was on the apron with the kendo stick, and HIKARU SHIDA ended up getting the kendo stick and took out Britt Baker with it. She hit the kendo stick to Britt Baker. So then Toni Storm ended up coming out. Toni Storm came down and she clotheslined the hell out of Rebel, to which Rebel sold that pretty good. So then she ended up taking out Britt Baker. And then we had Saraya come out. Saraya ended up coming down and she ended up clearing the ring of Jamie Hayter and Rebel and Britt Baker. And pretty much that was basically how Dynamite went off the air. Overall, this was a very good match, good main event between Jamie Hayter and HIKARU SHIDA. Both women gave it all they got. And Dynamite tonight was a very good show. Very entertaining. But anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. There will be no SmackDown or AEW Rampage review this Friday, so won't be doing one. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.